If you were around my age or older, you might remember a commercial that aired in the late 90s. It was the Army of One commercials, okay? Do you remember this? Maybe I'm the only one. But the Army of One commercials were a series of commercials that tried to convince impressionable young men and women that they could join the Army while still keeping their individuality. The one that sticks out in my head, and let me tell you, it is for all the wrong reasons, started with a soldier running in full battle rattle. And if you don't know what full battle rattle is, it's all of our gear, all of it on, getting ready for combat. Full battle rattle, okay? A soldier running in full battle rattle by themselves. Now, the narrator starts talking out. The music starts swelling around us, right? And the narrator starts talking about the soldier's passion, the guts, and of course, playing off the Army of One, the individual journey. And then, incredulously, the camera zooms out to show that not only is the soldier running alone, but the soldier is in fact running towards an entire company of United States soldiers. To this day, it remains, in my opinion, as the dumbest Army commercial I have ever seen. I mean, how did that ever work? How did they even get a soldier to raise their right hand after this commercial and swear allegiance to the United States by serving in the military? Now, okay, I joined up soon after I saw that commercial, but I promise you, it was mere coincidence. I mean, the Army of One commercial makes absolutely no sense to me, especially if you spend any time in the military. You know that they harp on us being a team, us being unified. Actually, if you research the Army of One, one was meant to be an acronym of officers, non-commissioned officers, and enlisted coming together as one, which makes that commercial make even more make that commercial not mean any more, make any more sense than it already doesn't make any sense, because it's completely about unity, and the commercials make it about the individual. And yes, it makes no sense for those going in or those who are currently serving in the armed services. But here's the thing: it does ring true for those of us who have left active service. So many veterans that I have talked to over the last 20 years have communicated the loneliness and the battle of life after service. They talk about how angry they get, how they don't feel like they fit in. They feel like a round peg being shoved into a square hole in our culture. And so they often end up isolated and lonely. And they feel like they are left with absolutely no purpose. To be honest, going from a professional killer to a blue or white collar worker is admittedly weird. And yet, thousands of soldiers do it each and every day. I don't remember in an interview the question of what makes the green grass grow ever being included in a job interview, because it's weird going from a killer to a blue or white collar worker. But it's not just the other veterans who have fought this battle of one. It's one that has plagued me for the last 19 years after coming home from Iraq. I would find my anger getting out of control, especially when I was in a situation in which I had no control. This usually shows up in me driving, right? There was a time when, soon after I got home from Iraq, my now wife and I were driving down an interstate, and this car cut me off way too closely, and I thought we were going to get into a wreck. And when we didn't, the car just zoomed right on past us. I got so angry that I started pounding my fist as hard as I could against the steering wheel, scaring the snot out of my wife. And that wasn't just an isolated event. I couldn't keep any of my emotions in check, and would find myself unable to handle any type of stressful situation. I'm a pastor, for those of you who don't know. And even as a pastor, I lost job after job, church after church. I caused my wife and my kids to walk on eggshells each and every day because they didn't want to upset Daddy or Larry. Because, and look, I never once physically assaulted my kids or my wife, but they just didn't want to get yelled at. They didn't want to see me angry. I disconnected because I was so embarrassed of who I was from my friends and my family, and I lived my life in this chaotic mess. And the entire time, I thought I was just an over-passionate jerk. A person who wanted to do right, but yet couldn't act right. A person who would stop at nothing to protect those who could not protect themselves, even though I was a threat to those that I wanted to protect the most. I had no idea what was brewing inside of my head at the time. The Battle of One, as it was for me and every veteran that I interacted with, was a losing battle. I found myself going down a very slippery slope. You know, the newest numbers report that 25 veterans a day, 25, end their life to suicide. And when we fight our battles alone, our minds are preoccupied with pervasive thoughts that won't stop. Thoughts of ineffectiveness, thoughts that life would be better if we simply weren't here anymore, thoughts that the life of those around us would be better if we just stopped breathing, thoughts of making the inexpressible pain that thousands of soldiers go through after war simply cease. But this isn't how it should be. This is not healthy. This is not what soldiers should be going through, and it's certainly not something that we should be going through. So what's the solution to this problem? Even one veteran a day committing suicide is too much, let alone 25. So today, I want to share a story of how I overcame the Battle of One, or at least am still overcoming the Battle of One, and in turn, how any of us can do the same. 14 years after coming home from Iraq, I found my anxiety and paranoia at its worst. I couldn't drive anywhere without thinking someone was following me, or that I was going to be attacked out of nowhere, that I was going to be shot dead in the middle of a road. I was on edge. I couldn't walk without looking behind my shoulder every 5 seconds. And like I said before, my family was walking on eggshells. Heather was constantly trying to protect the kids from my anger, protect me from my anger. I mean, look, I am so glad I married a saint of a woman, because she did such a great job of helping our family during these difficult times. And it wasn't until finally a friend of mine, a veteran himself, took me out for lunch and offered me a challenge. He looked at me and he said, "Larry, you need to get checked for PTSD." And I looked at him and I kind of laughed, right? Because I was like, dude, I don't have PTSD. Like, I did not go through combat. I didn't experience combat. Yeah, I had some scary moments, some close calls, but those weren't even anywhere near me. I don't have PTSD. And we went back and forth for a while. I mean, like for a good hour, until he finally broke me down. And he said, "Larry, get checked for PTSD." And I looked at him and I said, "Fine." And in my head, I thought, good. I'll go do this. I'll set up my appointment and I'll do it so I can shut you up, because I do not have PTSD. There's no way that I would be diagnosed with PTSD. Well, boy, was I wrong. Not only did I have PTSD, but for a plethora of reasons, which I will not get into now, it was severe. Yeah, I still remember my therapist at the VA looking at me. And if you've ever been to the VA, I love the VA. They do really good work. But they have this blunt yet caring style of talking to you, right? Because they know that we can handle the way they talk to us. And my therapist was a VA therapist, true and true. She looked at me and in that blunt yet caring way said, honey, which whenever someone says honey, bad news is about to happen. She goes, honey, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets any better, if it gets better at all. And can I tell you, it got worse. There's a myth about Pandora's box. I'm sure you've heard of it before, but Pandora's box once held all of the world's problems, all of the world's darkness, all of the world's sin was in this box, protecting people from itself. And once it was open, the world went to hell. The same thing happened with me. Once I opened the box of my PTSD, my world went to hell. Scratch that. My world got real. It didn't get worse. I just started seeing it for what it was. I started seeing the crap for what it was. I started seeing my problems for what they were. And I started accepting my trials, and I started meeting them head on, and instead of burying them deep within myself, I was committed to fighting the fight that I needed to fight to get past this and be there for my family. Man, I started going to therapy. I started listening to podcasts. I started openly talking about my depression and anxiety. But there was a problem that I still needed to admit that I had. And it started and ended with the letter I. I wanted to fight the fight. I wanted to get past this. I wanted to be there for my family. I started going to therapy. I started listening to podcasts. I. And I was doing it all on my own. Except I wasn't. I thought I was. But really, all I was doing was burying myself deeper into my issues by covering up with Band-Aids that weren't really meant to fix the problem. They were to lead me to the problem, not fix it. Trying to contain Pandora's box is impossible, and dealing with it on my own wasn't any better. I was constantly overwhelmed, and the thoughts of ending it all were becoming stronger every day. I had become the soldier running towards an entire company of my demons. And I was about to get mowed down. This is where I'm thankful for the people that God has placed in my life, because I started talking to my friends and I found myself crying over the phone that I was not sure that I could handle this anymore. That I wasn't sure that I had the strength to get through this. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's when one of my closest friends told me that I wasn't alone. That I had a community of people who loved me, who cared for me, and would come together and stop at nothing to help me and my family get through this. As she puts it, and she reminds me, she's the one who told me about this. As she puts it, I had a tribe. And that tribe, those people, have lived up to their word. They have put up with me in love. Even when I am annoyed by them, even when I wish they would just stop, they don't stop. They have put up with me in love. They have surrounded me in my worst moments, and they have celebrated me in my best. Led by my wife, these warriors have been by my side and will continue to do so no matter what. And those things that I talked about earlier that I had committed to doing, fighting the good fight, going to therapy, doing all that stuff, that now has more meaning. That now has more impact. That now has caused more growth inside of me because of the people who are there to encourage. Listen, I may not ever be fully healed of this thorn in my flesh, as I call it. But I can be whole again. I can discover a new normal that helps me cope with my PTSD in a way that helps others just like me to discover their tribes and their people. And so I want to offer some advice. Look, I'm not perfect at this. I still struggle. I still have a lot of dark days. And there are a lot of days where I still have these pervasive thoughts, these invasive thoughts, telling me to end it all. But I do know what has worked for me and what has worked with me. And what I am about to suggest is what worked and continues to work to this day. Please take this with a grain of salt and talk this out with someone that you trust, as well as a professional therapist. But here it is. My best advice. You ready for this? Don't fight this battle alone. You have people who love you, who care for you. Listen to me. People who want you to enjoy life with them. But what does that look like practically? If I may offer some points of application here. Number one, a better life starts with a commitment to living a better life holistically. And that means a better life mentally, physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. Wholeness will not happen if you only try to work on one of these. If all you're committed to doing is going to the gym, you will fail. If all you're committed to is going to therapy, you will fail. If all you're committed to is going to church, and I'm a pastor, you will fail. No, you have to be committed to living a better life in all aspects of life. Mental, physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual. But remember, you can't do this alone. This is a lot. You need to build a tribe. Find a community. Go to some veteran building events. Go find your local American Legion, your local VFW. Indianapolis and a lot of communities around the country have these things called irreverent warriors. Find that community. I originally spoke this message at a luncheon for veterans hosted by the Mental Health Coalition of America in Hendricks County. And they have a Veterans Open Door Social Club on the 2nd and 4th Friday in Avon. Go to that. Find some other veterans that can relate to your experiences and talk it out. Or don't, and just enjoy each other's company. Outside of that, find places of community. Go to a coffee shop and just sit there and do work all day and just talk to the people who come in and out. Go to a church on a weekly basis and find groups of people that you can talk to and connect with. Go to a pub. Find a Facebook group. Find an online community. There are plenty of places that you can go where you can find people who care about and care for you as a person. But don't forget your family and friends. And not just any of them, by the way. We all have those family and friends who would stab you in the back pretty quickly, or who will only love you on a superficial level, right? Find the family and friends who are trustworthy enough that will hold you accountable for the right reasons. And when you build your tribe through family and friends and places of community and veteran building support groups, then make a safety plan. Now, what is a safety plan? It's something that you come up with to let certain people in your life know what to do in case you hit rock bottom. A good safety plan will describe your triggers, the things that set you off, your mannerisms. What do you look like? What do you do when you are trying to isolate and you're having anxiety and wanting to get away and go into a dark place? And then develop an action plan to get you the help that you need. I suggest that you talk to a therapist and you work on one together. Many therapists have a template that you can that will help you ask the right questions to get something that is detailed enough for somebody else to look at. But then use the plan. Find your closest friends to bring accountability. Hand them a copy of your safety plan and ask them to hold you accountable. For me, that person is my wife. We have been together 18 years. There's nobody else in my world who knows me more than my wife. And my wife has permission outside of me to enact this plan when she feels it necessary. I can't tell you how many times I have gotten phone calls, texts, or visits from my friends because my wife has called them and says, check on him now. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my safety plan. So if I could leave you with one thing for you to remember, one thing for you to consider, to talk about with those in your life that will help you remember the things that we talked about today, it would be this. No battle is won by the hands of one. You don't have to do this alone. And to be honest, you never were meant to do this alone. Rely on others. Get the help you need. And be whole again. Now, look, I would be remiss if, as a Christian and pastor, I did not mention how vital Jesus has been to getting me through everything I have gone through these last 5 years. Yes, I give a lot of credit to my tribe, but Jesus gave me that tribe. He has given me a faith that has helped me to keep on keeping on. And I would love to talk to you about that. And if you would want to have a private conversation with me about that, then reach out to me. My email is larry@thebridgehc.org. You can email me anytime and we can connect. I would love to have a cup of coffee or a meal. Feel free to contact me anytime to talk about any of the things that have been mentioned today. I also hold a weekly conversational worship service where all people are welcome to ask questions about life and faith. If you want to learn more about that particular thing, you can go to my church's website, thebridgehc.org. You can learn all about us there. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and even contact me through email directly through that. I have videos online. All of that is on the website. You can find out more from there, okay? I want to thank you for your time today. It really means a lot that you have taken the time to watch this video. I hope it helps, because it's helped me. And I can't wait to see what God does through your tribe. All right, that's it from me. I will hopefully see you again. Until then, peace, love, and soul.